Alright, hey folks, glad you could stop in once again for another installment of NaNoWriMovember. And this is the kind of the 2 days in progress report, so honestly not a whole lot will have changed. It's just kind of to compare to my first impressions. And as before, why don't I start with the mustache business, which you can see has not developed a whole lot. Like, get closer, that's still not great quality video there, but if you check my Movember page, I've been uploading daily things, daily photos, and it isn't growing much, but you can tell that it will grow eventually based on my starting picture. I mean, I'm not expecting to have a whole full mustache by this point, 2 days in. Some people might. They're ridiculous cavemen people. And I think I've gotten more used to the shaving other parts of the face. I feel like I'm not shaving well enough because I still have sort of a shadow there. But I don't know, it'll probably become less noticeable as the mustache grows in. And then also, like, I'm still not quite used to not having a beard, because most of the time, maybe it's just the lighting in my room, when I look at that mirror back there, I have less of a visual differentiation between my chin and my neck, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm Ed from Ed, Edd n Eddy. And it's weird. I'm used to having a big, like, brown line there to separate them. And I have to get used to it. And overall, I think a lot of people were just shocked and not necessarily disliking the lack of a beard. Last time I hadn't shown it to anybody by the time I recorded the video. Now I have, and I got 2 people asking if I got a haircut, because they couldn't place what the difference was. And then a lot of people just, whoa, this is new and scary, basically was the deal. And we'll see how it develops, I think, because I have at least one person who I know is somewhat doesn't enjoy No Shave November and related festivities, simply because there are so many people who will have in-transit facial hair, if you know what I mean. As in, like, patchy or thin. So she'll probably be the one I go to for judgment when the time comes. But I think I'm just going to have to power through it and realize that it's not really going to look great probably for the first week or 2 or month. But that's why I'm doing the videos. I should note, actually, let me pull up the page. I did receive one $10 donation from somebody. Let me pull up the page and see who it was. And that is $10 more than I expected to get, honestly. Like, already this is a wild success. And I assume the donation came from one of you people. So, Gabriella Ekins donated $10, I think, like, within 24 hours of me uploading the video, or at least pretty quick. And you have my eternal gratitude, because that's more than I ever expected, and you are a good person for doing that. It makes me feel like my pitiful mustache might be worth it. And if any of you other people are feeling charitable and haven't already donated to various other charities at this time, I know there are a couple streaming donation things going on right now. I would encourage you to put a couple bucks in there. It's not like I'm asking for a lot or expecting a lot, but it would always be nice. And you can always just stop in and check my progress photos once they actually show progress. I have one for every day, and they really don't look different at all, except sort of the lighting. I look pale in one of them. But overall, it's slow. I don't know if there's, like, much progress yet. When I look closely in the mirror, there are some hairs, but we're gonna have to wait another week and see where I am at that point to see if it's going in a good direction, and it very well might not be. Alrighty, and then part 2 of this weekly thing is talking about how my Nano is gone. And I'll admit that I didn't... This is going to be a really obvious thing to say. I didn't realize how many words 1,600 words really was per day. Because I'm like, oh, that's like 5-page essay that I can usually crank out in an evening if I've been procrastinating. That's not that much. And then, of course, the first day, I managed to write 1,669 words, which is 2 extra. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is a little more words than I thought it was. I already found myself, like, stretching things a bit, like finding places to elaborate where I might have just kind of glossed over. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe kind of the extra wordage can help develop the scene more. I don't want to be one of those people who just like describes every single detail of the room. I know a lot of people do that to fill their word counts. I want to avoid that for the time being. I might resort to it later. I'm because I write so little. I'm not sure what that delicate balance between description and writing, like progression, is. And it's not a magical ratio, obviously. Everyone has their own tastes, and different literary movements have different ratios. But I still have to figure out mine. But the first day, it actually went pretty well. I found myself that I can kind of think better in the evening rather than in the morning. In the morning is my designated goof-off time up until now. So even though I have a couple hours in the morning to write, I find that I didn't really do that. I really should. But in the evening, once I've completed all my homework and I want to wind down and just kind of pour words on the page, that's what I found to be useful in the past 2 days. You know, I still got a long ways to go and a long way to change my strategy. But then the next day was a little funnier. Technically, going by the calendar, I didn't get the number of words necessary by the turn of midnight from the 2nd to the 3rd. But I was up for like another 2 hours doing various festivities and finishing off those words. And I got like 400 words for plus, like, fulfilled yesterday's requirement and got 400 words into today's requirement. So that's good. Like, I still need to write more tonight, and I will write more tonight. This being recorded in the morning of the 3rd, which hopefully it will be uploaded sometime near that time. But I think I'm going to have to, at some points, ignore the calendar and just go by my sleep schedule, which generally isn't too crazy. I think it was partly just because it was a Friday night, and there were a lot of distractions in the dorm common room. It was an interesting night, but that's not for this video. Anyway, on the story front, my first chapter was The King and the Maiden, which is basically kind of an introductory world-building chapter, a time of innocence. It's basically talking about the king going out and looking for a wife because he's getting old, and it's embarrassing for him not to have a wife at this point. And if you remember my motifs that I introduced in the last installment of this, you know that the relationship doesn't quite go in the who the hell is revving an engine? They're crazy people. You'll realize that the relationship doesn't go swimmingly, idyllically. She will start to be a bit manipulative. But I wanted to have that introductory chapter as kind of a almost corny, silly, goofy, innocent time before I go into the reality, going from like royalty, living fun life, and then switching to the brothers who are kind of like poor and not so great. But at the same time, there's a weird connection of he's finding this like farmer maiden basically, and he's developing this connection and relationship with this lower class woman. kind of indicating that he's not a bad guy, and then he's not totally consumed and his head isn't completely full of the aristocracy. He has the poor in mind to a certain extent, and that's will make things all the stranger when he isn't too nice to the poor in the main present of the narrative. But of course it won't really be him. It's going to be his wife, which is going to be confusing. Like, I guess the wife, coming from a poor upbringing, being brought up to the aristocracy, but not respecting her origins very well. I'm going to have to, figure out exactly how that transition occurs. Although the narrative doesn't really focus on her, it is kind of a glaring issue with her character motivation. But then anyway, that was basically writing for the first day. The second day, rather than first day, I had one scene basically, and then the second day I had 3 separate scenes because I basically wanted to move the characters from place to place to place, and I think that'll be to my advantage. It'll keep me from getting hung up on any single scene. I won't try to pump out 1,600 words of them walking in the marketplace. That would be really boring. I mean, I could describe in great detail all the various crops and whatnot that you can see for sale and where everybody's from and things like that, but that would be silly and ridiculous. So I got the marketplace where the older brother Simon kind of distracts a lady, and the younger brother Jay steals some oranges, and there's a joke about him because his hands are full carrying a big sack. He'll stuff the oranges into his pants, and then that leads to a couple of jokes later on. Nothing big, but that's me being juvenile. And then they head back to the barn where they meet up with a farmer. They help out a farmer on the side to basically get the food necessary that they can't get from stealing, because they're not the greatest at stealing, I'm going to be honest. I mean, the guy stole 4 oranges in that whole shebang, so, they got a ways to go before they're rolling the good thief life. And they have this agreement with the farmer where they will help out with the crops, and they will keep lookout at night to make sure any thieves, burglars, or animals don't try to eat the crops, and they'll keep the animals company too. But they still keep to this thief business because they do have this kind of longing and dream of something more, wanting to have a little bit of luxury rather than just living the subsistence life. And then moving on to the evening in the barn, which was basically their dinner was 2 radishes each, uncooked. And Jay is like, hey, I'll take the first night shift. And it's a common trend that he just takes all the night shifts. They're supposed to switch in the middle of the night, but he just lets Simon rest because Simon needs it or something. It's like, you know that relationship where oh yeah, somebody who you want to kind of kiss up to tries to have sort of an equal, fair thing, and you just want to take all the responsibility so that they'll like you more. It's something like that. So then we've got Jay sitting on a hay bale, listening to the quiet of the night, and I'm about to go into a little section on basically a couple foxes try to dig out some potatoes, and he's like, man, the foxes are hungry, but I really don't want to fuck up this job, because if I fuck it up, the farmer might give us a boot, and then where will we be? We'll be stuck, and that would suck. So logistical versus I know that feel, bro, kind of thing. But that'll be fun. And then I'll move on to the instigator of the plot. Once I've covered kind of a daily regimen for these guys, I'm going to bring in a stranger with a proposition, and I'll probably get to that either later today or tomorrow, depending on how long I make this Jay at night section. And my total word count right now, let's see here. I am All right, it's a little weird. There are two separate word counts on Scrivener, and I'm not sure which one I'm supposed to look at. My word count on the Nano site is 3,835 as of 10:50 a.m. this morning, and I got to write 1,166 more today to be on track, which is totally doable. So hopefully that was interesting and neat and cool. And I'll see you guys in 1 week for another status report. But you can always check my Nano page or my Movember page to see how many words I have or how much of a mustache I have. Oh, and I just remembered while editing that there was one other thing I wanted to mention about Nano is that one of you, Yoshi Chow, added me as a buddy, and that is totally cool. I would love to meet buddies with more of you and see how all of you are doing, because I know in the comments a lot of you said that you were participating or interested in participating. So, buddy me. You know my name. It's down there. So let me know how you're doing. I'm interested. Now I'll see you. Bye. Bye next week.